Okay, hello everybody. Today we're here in Microsoft Flight Simulator 2020 in the Cessna 152 by JP Logistics. We have an 80 nautical mile flight from Sierrasim Mike Delta Tango Harrisburg International to Whiskey Bravo Whiskey Wilkes-Barre, Wyoming Valley. We'll be flying VFR and we'll be flying with live weather, which is the way to fly in the sim because the weather is dynamic and will change over the course of the flight. It should be an awesome flight, so let's hop into the pilot seat and get started. Alright, we're parked here at Harrisburg, which is an awesome payware airport by Sierrasim. We'll open up the window here on our C152, a feature you get with JP Logistics mod for the 152. So we'll set the parking brake, feet are on the brakes, switches are off, circuit breakers are all in, mixture to idle cutoff, throttle to idle, carb heat's in. Our trim is set to take off. We'll head down here and get the fuel selector to on. We'll turn the battery and master on, verifying that the prop area is clear first. It is. Check fuel quantity left, right. We've got about 3/4 of a tank, a little more than a half, which is adequate for this flight. We'll get the mixture in. We'll crack the throttle, an 1/8 of an inch. We'll prime it 1, 2, 3 strokes of the primer. Clear prop, feet are on the brakes, keys in the ignition, and we'll crank it over. We've got a good engine start. RPMs are at 1,000. We've got oil pressure in the green, so that all looks good. Next, we'll lean the mixture for ground operations to avoid fouling the spark plugs while we're here on the ground. That's set, so now we can head down to the switches. We'll turn on the taxi light while we're here, and then we'll head up to the avionics, make sure our transponder is to standby, and we'll turn on the COM1 and COM2 radios.
Harrisburg Tower, information Charlie, weather 2256, Zulu, wind 210 at 8, visibility 10, view cloud 5000, temperature 9er, dew point -2, altimeter 29er 88, visual approach runway.
That was the real-world HOTAS from liveatc.net, which should match because we're using real-world weather. Let's open up for flight, and I'll take you through the flight brief. So we're departing from Harrisburg, which is a Class Delta. If we were to fly direct, we would head towards restricted space and another Delta, so we're just going to jog to the right here and use Lebanon as our first direction change. For picking out waypoints, we've got 5-8 November, Regal Field, which is between Harrisburg and Lebanon. We've got Lebanon as waypoint 2, Interstate 78, which is a great visual waypoint for waypoint 3. As we continue to head north, we'll get to Pottsville and Schuylkill Haven, so we'll drop a pin there for our next waypoint. Continuing on north, you can see we've got a wind farm here, so that'll be really easy to spot. That's the Shenandoah Hills Wind Farm. Then we've got Hazelton and Interstate 81, so we'll drop a pin there. Now we're getting close to Wyoming Valley. You can't quite see it due to the weather here, but there's a lake there. That's Crystal Lake. That's one of my favorite visual waypoints just over the mountain coming out of Wyoming Valley. So we'll drop a pin there for Crystal Lake. Then we'll fly over Wilkes-Barre, and that should put us on a nice vector to approach the 45-degree pattern entry for Whiskey Bravo Whiskey. So you can see the green squares there are the ceilings. They're generally 5,000 decreasing to 4,200, so we'll keep an eye on that. We're flying at 3,500 for this flight. We've got winds 220 at 12 at Harrisburg, and more of the same when we look at the forecast. If we go to Whiskey Bravo Whiskey, Whiskey Bravo Whiskey doesn't report its own weather. Instead, it uses AVP, which is the nearby Class Delta, and they are 230 at 8. So similar winds, but clouds will be a bit lower as we head north, and I'm expecting to see the skies get cloudier as we progress along our trip. Harrisburg ground. It says the 565 Whiskey is a C152 slant alpha. We'd like to request flight following destination Whiskey Bravo Whiskey at 3,500 with information Charlie. Departure frequency 118.25, squawk 2313, and Cessna 565 Whiskey is ready to taxi. Taxi runway 31 run-up area via Alpha Golf Alpha, Cessna 565 Whiskey. Alright, we'll have a look around. We'll make sure that we are clear. We've got the two guys off to our left, so we're going to swing around and a wide arc to the left to clear them. And then look for the taxi line and get on Alpha. There's two main taxiways here, Alpha and Golf. Alpha's straight and parallel to the runway, and Golf sort of follows the contour of the airport. We are using Sierrasim's payware version of this, and the time this was made, I think they had part of Alpha closed for construction, so they actually have a chunk of Alpha closed in the payware model. So we've got to get on Alpha, get off Alpha, go around the chunk that's closed, and get back on Alpha. On the plus side, it'll give us a nice scenic overview of the airport. As we're taxiing, we'll open up Google Maps, and you can see the portion of taxiway Alpha that's closed. So it's got yellow X's indicating construction underway. However, if you go into ForeFlight's aerial image shows that that's complete and Alpha's back in business. So maybe it's a small gripe that they permanently modeled the temporary closure of Alpha in the payware version of the airport, but it does give it some flavor, just like a real airport that occasionally has things closed for construction. If you look at the ForeFlight taxi diagram, I'll draw with the red pen so you can see the path we're actually taking and how we're jogging around the closed section of Alpha. As we jog back onto Alpha, it looks like there's a hold pad or a run-up area just before runway 31. I'm not sure if that's what it is, but it looks good, so I'm going to pull over to the side here and do our run-up. So we'll check that our flight controls are free and correct. Next we'll get our mixture into full rich. Bring the throttle up to 1700 RPMs, and we're going to do our magneto check. Head down here and go to mag left. You can see in here the drop, and it's within limits, back to both. Go to mag right. See in here the drop, back to both. Next we'll pull out carb heat. We got a good drop for carb heat. Harrisburg ground, Cessna 565 Whiskey, continue. Taxi and hold short, runway 31, Cessna 565 Whiskey. Alright, got a nice short taxi here. Pull up here to the hold short areas. We'll get our strobes on, transponders already in mode C. Switch over to tower. Harrisburg Tower, Cessna 565 Whiskey, holding short, runway 31. Cleared for takeoff, runway 31, right crosswind, departure approved, Cessna 565 Whiskey. Alright, so we're going to take off, turn right onto the crosswind. Once we are free of the pattern area, then we'll turn out onto our initial heading of 073. While we roll out, I'll give you a couple of real-life updates. So if you follow the channel, you'll know I'm a science fiction author of the Hayden's World series, and this week I just released my second book on audio via Audible. So if science fiction is your deal, check out the video details link. The other bit of news is you know that I've been taking real-life flight lessons, and I got all the way up to the check ride. I was ready for the check ride, and I ran into a medical issue and had to hit the pause button, which required some surgery. So after about 3 months off, surgery's done, everything worked out fine, and I got cleared by my AME to resume flying. So I'm very excited. I was very bummed to have to stop flying for a couple months, but I am excited to start scheduling those lessons again. So I've got to contact my CFI, get back on a schedule, and hopefully in the next 2 weeks or so I can get back in the skies and finally get everything I need to get my check ride complete. Alright, we're making our right crosswind turn. We're going to keep on climbing up to 3,500. Now you saw some cooling towers behind us. That's actually 3 Mile Island, which you might be familiar with. Got a photogrammetry area here around Harrisburg, which is really nice considering it's a Delta. Usually it's class Bravos that get the photogrammetry works in Microsoft Flight Simulator. We're clear of the pattern so we can make our initial heading turn and sit back and enjoy that awesome Flight Simulator scenery. Alright, I've said it before, but live weather is the way to go in the sim because it's dynamic. It changes over the course of the flight, and your destination airport is going to have different weather than your departure airport. It got really windy and gusty at the end there, and the ceilings were dropping, so it made it even more challenging to land. So I hope you enjoy realistic general aviation content like this. If you do, be sure to click that like button, leave me a comment, and don't forget to subscribe. Thanks, as always, for flying along with me, and stay tuned for further flight adventures.